उपवीतिनमहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम्। ॐ श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। ॐ वृषभं च शनीनां विश्वरूपमदाभ्यं बृहस्पतिं वरेण्यम्। ॐ तद्विष्णोः परमं पदं सदा पश्यन्ति सूरयः दिवि चक्षुराततम्। ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं ज्योतिर्ब्राह्माय नमः। And everybody say Hare Rama Krishna 3 times. Om Hare Rama Krishna, Hare Rama Krishna, Hare Rama Krishna. Okay. Yeah, we have to start the 7th Lord in the first house. Chapter 24 in Santanam's version, verse 73.
Generally more interaction.
Outspoken, okay. दारेशे लग्नगे जातः परदारेषु लम्पटः दुष्टो विचक्षणो धीरो जनो वातरुजान्वितः. दारेशे लग्नगे जातः. If the 7th Lord is in the first house, he is an ascendant, a person born like that. Paradareshu lampataha means he is interested in other people's wives. Dushto means a bad person, an evil person, a wicked person. Vichakshanaha. Vichakshana means a very clever person. He knows if I do this, this will happen. If I do this, this will happen. He understands things very in great clarity. Somebody who understands very well and very clever. Adhiraha. Adhiraha means Dhiraha means courageous. Dhira means bold. Adhiraha means not bold. Basically covered. Jano, person. Vata rujanvitaha. Vata rujanvitaha means Vata rogas. He has rogas relating to Vata. Vata means Vayu and Akasha, basically. Air and ether. Relating to those qualities. Basically, things like asthma, that kind of diseases he may have. Okay, now let's parse each of them. Dareshe lagnage jata pardaresh lampataha. Why is he interested in other people's wives?
The 7 from 7.
Yeah? Yeah?
So that's why it is 7 from 7 is Lagna.
Yeah, okay. That planet is in the Lagna. Okay. Okay, and in general he is very, like you said, even though Parashara did not mention, what you said is right. He is very outgoing, very talkative. He talks a lot. He talks to people. He engages with people a lot. And one of the possibilities, one of those people that he engages with is other people's wives. Dushtaha. Why is he an evil person? Why is he an evil person?
From 9th house he is well placed.
He is the 11th Lord in the 5th house, right? Yeah? Why is he not straightforward? Basically, you were to see the basic character of the person. Of course, 9th house is the sense of dharma of the person, the sense of duty, sense of purpose. But the basic character of the person can also be seen from the Lagna itself. So from Lagna, a Marka is in Lagna. So Lagna has been weakened. It can show disease also from Lagna. from Lagna, a Marga being in Lagna can also show somebody who has some diseases, but it can also show somebody who has character problem. So it may be somebody with a bad character, right? So the thing is, when you want to see the basic character of the person, apart from the ninth house, Lagna is the foundation of the character of the person. And ninth house is specifically the sense of purpose in life, the sense of dharma, the sense of righteousness, right and wrong. Vichakshanaha, he has good judgment and he is very clever. Why? The judgment and cleverness, all those abilities, where do you seek from? Fifth house. So from the fifth house, this is basically third lord in the ninth house. Third lord in the ninth house. So basically, being in the ninth house from the fifth house, he will protect the fifth house. So he will give good judgment, good abilities. He is a very capable person, right? How will be the speech of this person? What kind of speaker will this person be? Even though Parasa did not mention anything, what kind of a speaker will he be? Based on how we have been doing so far, what do you guess? Why? Right. But which lord involved? Sixth lord involved. Is that good or bad? Is Viparita Rajayoga from second house of speech. So he may have some problem in speaking, he may have some oratorial problems, but eventually everything will end fine. He will end up speaking nicely. So he may have some hiccups in the beginning, but he will make friends, he will talk to people a lot. The next one is Adhiraha. He is not really... Yeah, family also we can say they can be a roller coaster ride, but eventually family will do fine, especially in that planet special. Adhiraha. He is not brave. Why? Yeah, from the third house. Yeah. Right.
Even we see the person who handles the obstacles, like overcoming the obstacles, that is nothing to do with covered, right?
Usually not. Usually not. The word he used is Adhira. Now, right. Third house perspective is not making sense, right? So the word that is used by Parasara may actually have a different meaning. So we have to guess what it is. Now, from the third house of initiative and drive and bravery and boldness, is the fifth lord in the 11th house, not bad at all. 11th house placement of any planet is good. He has Agala on this house. And he is the fifth lord of Purpunja with respect to third house. So he actually has initiative. He is not really a coward who sits in a corner. He goes to people and he talks to people. He takes initiative, walks to people, and he engages everybody in a nice chart. So it's not third house perspective. Now, one of you said sixth house, right? So sixth house perspective, how is this planet? He is the second lord in the eighth house. Is it good or bad? From the sixth house, this planet is terrible. He is a marka. Second lord in the eighth house is a clear marka. So when it comes to overcoming the obstacles, he can't. So he can actually start well, but if he has to persist and fight something, he is not of that kind. So the problem of this person is he can take initiative, take charge, go and talk to people, but if he has to fight with somebody instead of talking, if there is somebody who is really being a big obstacle, he doesn't know how to deal with it. He will just walk away. He will not fight. So he walks away from fight. From that point of view, he is an Adhira. He is cowardly. So this is basically bravery as applicable to fighting spirit. Basically, he is talking about somebody who doesn't have the fighting spirit, the killer instinct. He is just a starter, and he may be a quitter. Now, Vata Rujan Vitaha. He has Vata Roga. Why?
is why.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good. Very good. Yeah. So basically, from the sixth house is basically the house of fighting your diseases. Everybody gets a lot of viruses, bacteria into the body. Everybody gets so many organisms into the body. But some people fight them well, some people can't fight well. So, because from the sixth house this planet is badly placed, he can't really resist. He doesn't have good resistance in the body. So, he has diseases. So, it makes sense that he has diseases. Why specifically Vata disease? In general, like you said earlier, seventh lord in the Lagna makes a person very outgoing. He is very talkative, very dynamic kind of person. Dynamism is basically a quality of air. Dynamism is so basically he is an overactive, hyperactive kind of person. So such a person is likely to have more Vata in the body. Not necessarily, it depends on the planet, but by itself all you can say is there is a possibility of Vata. Usually people who are very outgoing and who are very hyperactive, talk to people a lot, they either have strong Vata or strong Pitta. Those are definitely not Kapha type. Kapha is, let me relax, let me calm, that kind. Pitta is fire and Vata is air. One of the two will be dominant. And if you see a lot of executives who are basically are marketing people, most of them will not be Kapha people. They will be either Pitta or Vata people. And actually, a lot of Vata people, because Vata is like air, very unstable, but at the same time, it is also flexibility, and air gives that flexibility and adaptivity. So basically, there is no specific reason, unless you know whether Saturn is involved or whether Rahu is involved. Unless you look at the planets, you can't specifically say Vata Roga. But the fact that seventh lord is in Lagna, there is a good chance that this person has some Vata in the constitution. So that is how you can guess.
Generally, do we decide based on the planets what kind of
Yes.
they have?
We should decide based on the planet. Absolutely. Then the next verse. Dare se dhanage jato bahu sribhi samanvitah dara yogadhanaptischa dirghasutri samanavah. Dare se dhanage jatah. Dare se dhanage jatah. If the seventh lord is in the second house, a person born like that, bahu sribhi samanvitah. He has lot of spouses. He has many wives. The dara yoga dhanaptischa. He gets money from after marriage. I mean, Dara Yoga means actually through wife. It can mean getting lot of money through wife, marrying a rich woman. It can also mean after marriage, he basically becomes prosperous. He gets lot of money. One of the two. Dirghasutri manavaha. Dirghasutrin means one who procrastinates everything, one who delays everything. Very lazy basically. He is a procrastinator. Instead of doing today, we can do tomorrow. We can always do it tomorrow kind of person. So manavaha, such a person. Okay. Now, if the seventh lord is in the second house, why does he have lot of spouses? Tell me. Why ninth house?
From ninth house of Dharma, following one wife.
Okay. Following one wife may be a dharma of a person. I mean, dharma is very vague word. Somebody else's dharma may be to have many wives. For example, if somebody is a Muslim. So to say that one wife is dharma, it depends. If you are a Muslim or if you are a Mormon. So the thing is not just dharma. Just look at the seventh house. Wives, spouses are from the seventh house. From the seventh house, the Lord is in the eighth house. This is a classic combination for having wife basically passing away and marrying another wife. Because the seventh Lord is badly placed on the seventh house, marriage may not live for a long time. So the person may divorce or wife may pass away. But basically, this is not a case of marrying lot of wives, even though you have a wife, marrying another wife. This is a case of, for some reason your marriage breaks, your wife dies or you divorce her, and then you get married again. That is what this is indicating. Seventh Lord in the eighth from seventh. Dara yoga dhanaptischa. Marriage brings wealth. Why? Well, the seventh lord who gives marriage is in the second house of wealth. So there may be a link between wealth and money. So when he gets married, he may become prosperous, he may get a lot of money.
There is a combination between Artha Trikona and
One is Kama, one is Artha actually. Seventh house is a Kama Trikona.
in that way, his desire towards marriage, his desire towards external interactions would actually give him Artha.
Right. Exactly. Dirghasutri cha manavaha. He procrastinates things. He is a procrastinator. Yeah. Now the third house, this planet is the fifth lord, but he is very badly placed. He is basically fifth lord, but in the eighth from fifth. He is actually not well placed. And from the third house also, he is in the 12th house of loss, of giving up. In general, planets in the second house are not conducive to good initiative, good drive, etc. His initiative will be lacking. Especially this being the lord of the seventh house, another Kama Trikona. Being in 12th from another Kama Trikona is a bad thing. Seventh lord shows desire. And third lord shows taking the initiative to fulfill those desires. Now, the planet giving the desire is in the house of loss from the house of drive. So he may have desire, but he won't follow up on it. So he is very weak in following up on things and taking charge. He doesn't take charge. So Dirghasutri. The next verse 75. Dare she sahaje jato mruta patyo himanavah kadachijjayate putri yatnat putro vijivati. Dare she sahaje jataha. If the seventh lord is in the third house, mruta patyo himanavah, such a person will have dead child. kadachijjayate putri yatnat putro vijivati. And with some difficulty, a daughter or a son may be born and may continue to live. So what this is saying is there is some problem with respect to the longevity of children. Either children don't survive, a still child may be born, or child may be born and then not live for a long time. Only with some difficulty there may be a child, a son or daughter who lives, who survives. So survival of children is a problem if the seventh lord is in the third house. Why? Yeah. From the fifth house, third lord in the 11th house. So what is it?
To children.
Yeah.
So taking
With welfare?
But unless we say 11th is that is with respect to the children.
Yeah.
He's talking about the natives.
He's talking about children not surviving for a long time. Okay, from native point of view, how do you see it? How do you see it from the native point of view? How do you see children's longevity? Child's longevity. Yeah. Fifth house shows children. And the eighth house from fifth house shows longevity of the children. And how is this planet? So taking the longevity of the children as Lagna, how is this planet placed? What house does this planet own? He is the eighth lord in the fourth house. He is one Moksha Trikona lord in another Moksha Trikona. Of course, we are talking about longevity here. So Moksha Trikona is not really getting moksha. This is basically not a desirable house. So from the 8th house of child, this is the 8th lord. So he may actually give a break in the longevity. And he is in the 4th house having Agala on it. So 8th lord is having Agala on Lagna, basically taking the 12th house as a Lagna. So 8th lord has Argala. The 4th house is driving Argala on it. So it may, and the 8th house itself is strong because he is in the 9th from it. The planet is in the 9th house from 8th house. So he is making that house strong. But that house is the 8th house from the longevity of children. So he shows some big problems, some tension relating to the longevity of the children, the survival of the children. So he is not really a favorable planet for the longevity of the children. But that is one angle. Now, if children survive, he is the 3rd lord in the 11th house. So they should be very, they should be gainful, they should have a lot of profits, they should be lucky, and all those things basically. They should have a lot of initiative, because 3rd house is really strong. The 3rd house, see 3rd house also shows, because it's the 8th from 8, it is the Bhavat Bhavam, 8th from 8, it can show the circumstances of death. So 3rd house is an important house for death, but also it is house of initiative, taking charge and doing things, right? So the 3rd lord being in the 9th from the 3rd house. Any lord, any house lord being in the 9th from the house strengthens that house. So it can be a bold child who will, if the child survives, the child may be very bold and very enterprising. So that is also a possibility. But what Parashara mentioned is a possibility. Without consulting Saptansa, you can't really say. Just because somebody has the 7th lord in the 3rd house, you can't conclude that children will not live for a long time.
So other possibilities like 7th lord in 9th is interaction, like the person will have good.
7th lord in?
7th lord in is like 9th from 7th.
Yeah.
So he will be having good relations and good interactions, right?
Yeah. So sir, forgetting the 5th house as a Lagna, because this whole result is taking the 5th house as a Lagna. If you just take the 7th house as a Lagna, the lord of Lagna is in the 9th house. So 7th house is fortified, it's very strong, it's protected by that planet. So he has excellent interactions. Also, the 7th lord being in the 9th house of fortune in a foreign country, etc., he may have a lot of interactions with foreigners. So there are many possibilities that can be given. This is one of the possibilities that Parashara focused on. The next verse is Dareshe Sukha Bhavasthe Jaya Nasya Vashe Sada Swayam Satya Priyo Dhiman Dharmatma Danta Rogakyuk. Dareshe Sukha Bhavasthe. If the 7th lord is in the 4th house, in the house of comfort, Jaya, spouse, Nasya Vashe Sada, na Asya Vashe Sada. The spouse is not always under the control of the person. That means the spouse will be somewhat independent and not really listen to this person.
So spouse is dominant.
Not always, but sometimes spouse does not yield to the person's wishes. Swayam Satya Priyo Dhiman, and the person himself, he loves truth. He loves truth. Dhiman means intelligent. Dharmatma means he is very dharmic, very religious, very righteous. Danta Roga Yuk. He has diseases of teeth. Okay. Dareshe Subhavasya Jaya Nasya Vasya Sada. Now this is a complicated one. Now this whole verse. Why there are some problems in controlling the spouse? What kind of problems could he be talking about? I mean, we don't know exactly what Parashara is saying here. We only know the literal meaning of the word. There may be a different shade of meaning which is applicable. What can you say about the nature of the spouse just from this? She could be a career woman. 7th lord is in the 10th house from Lagna. So she may be a career woman in modern parlance. But even in the old terms, if she is not a career woman, at least she is active in the society. Because Lagna lord is in the 10th house. The intellect of the person is towards karma. So she is her intellect is directed towards her karma. So she wants to do things in the society. She wants to go and do, even if she doesn't have a job, she will say, there are some people on the street, I want to go and serve them, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to take care of this business, we should open another restaurant, like that basically. She will be more interested in her own 10th house, her own karma. So when somebody is interested in the karma, their career, your control, you basically, you don't have as much control over them. So control in that sense. The spouse has a life basically, has a career and a life. So that way you don't have control over the spouse. Okay. Yeah, it is societal. It is societal thing. But bottom line is, she basically has a mind of her own and she puts her mind on her career, her work. Swayam Satya Priyo Dhiman, and he loves truth. Why does he love truth? And of course he is saying Dharmatma. So he is truthful, he loves truth, and also he is dharmic, he is religious and righteous. So where do you see all those from? Okay, from the 9th house, how is this planet? Yeah. Yeah. Is it a good placement or bad placement? Is it not a good placement? Why?
11th Lord is supposed to, 11th house is a benefit house, but 11th Lord is said to be a
malefic, right? So he is in a Dusthana. So this is kind of like a Viprit Raj Yoga. 11th Lord being in the 8th house. From the 9th house, the 11th Lord is in the 8th house. And like I said, even though planets in the 11th house they give gains, the 11th Lord himself is not a benefic planet. He is a malefic. So many house, the 11th Lord, 3rd, 6th and 11th Lord, they are malefic planets. So one malefic planet is in the 8th house, a Dusthana. So Dusthana contains another a malefic Lord. So it is basically a Viparita Raj Yoga. So from the 9th house of Dharma, this planet is, he gives extra, there may be some ups and downs in the sense of Dharma of the person, but eventually there will be a very strong sense of Dharma. So he loves truth and also he is a religious person. Now why is he a Dhiman? Why is he an intelligent person? He is saying intelligence. Again the same thing. No, intelligence from 4th house. Learning is from 4th house. Intelligence from what house? 5th house, right? He is saying Dhiman, Dhi Shakti. Dhi means intellect. So he has good intellect. From the 5th house of intellect, he is the 3rd Lord in the 12th house. Is it good or bad? Again, 3rd house is a Dusthana, just like 11th house. 3, 6 and 11 are Dusthanas, or Trikasthanas. So lot of that house, who is a functional malefic, from the 5th house, not from Lagna. From the 5th house, he is a functional malefic. He is in 12th house of laws. So that is good.
12th house of laws with respect to the 5th house related things which are like intelligence. So
yeah.
He basically wishes to disperse the knowledge to people.
Yes, that is also the case. Yes. He puts it to use basically. Right. So the thing is, there is a Viparita Raj Yoga with respect to the 5th house, and also the planet in the 12th from 5th house, he is conducive to spending the wisdom of the person, putting it to use. So overall this planet, this person will be intelligent. He will have intelligence, not only intelligence, but he will apply the intelligence. He will put it to use. Finally, Dantaroga Yuk. Dantaroga Yuk means one who is accompanied by dental diseases, dental problems. Why? How do you see teeth? Which house? Actually, I don't think I ever mentioned. Teeth are seen from the 12th house. Teeth are from the 12th house. So he has diseases of the 12th house. Does it make any sense? From the 12th house of teeth, this is 8th Lord in the 5th house. So basically, his bottom line is he is the 8th Lord. He can give diseases relating to teeth, and moreover, he is in the house of Purvapunya now. So the planet whose job it is to give some problems relating to teeth. He is in the house of Purpunya with respect to that. So he is also of the Purpunya. So there is no Purpunya, and the results given are those of the 8th house.
With respect to the 12th house matters like his basic giving of things, devotion.
Yeah.
Would that still work out?
Yes, from those angles also moksha, humility, from all those other 12th house angles. Also, this planet is basically a bad planet. So he basically gives some problems, pulls back the 12th house matters. Of course, free. 12th house is not just teeth, but it is also free, the left eye. So all these areas, there may be some problems relating to some of these. It may be, in a case, it may not be dental problem, but it may be a foot problem. There may be a disease in the foot, or there may be a accident to the foot.
Is it a basic gati of the person, the basic direction of a person?
Fourth house is the basic direction of the person. The next verse is from the 10th house is the 10th lord in the 7th house. He is quite well placed. And also from 10th house, this planet is in the 7th house of interaction. So you will have a lot of professional interactions with people. Yes, he is well placed. Now, Dareshe Panchame Jato Mani Sarvagunanvitah Sarvada Harshayuktascha Tatha Sarvadhanadhipah Dareshe Panchame Jataha. If the 7th lord is in the 5th house, Mani, he is honored, respected, honorable. Sarvagunanvitaha, he has all good qualities. He is a virtuous person. He is respected, honorable and virtuous person. Sarvada harshayuktascha, always cheerful, always in good spirits. Tatha sarvadhanadipaha, and also having all kind of wealth, having a lot of wealth. Okay, so this is all very good. This is a good combination. After all, 7th lord is in 5th, 14th lord is in a trine, so this is a good combination. But what are the specific results given? Do they make sense? Honorable, is he a honorable person? How do you see honor and respect? 10th house. How is this planet? He is the 10th lord in the 8th house. Is it good or bad? It's actually not great. 10th lord in the 8th can give, forget from the 10th house. From Lagna, if the 10th lord is in the 8th house, what are the results we gave earlier? If the 10th lord is in 8th, he will be very famous for a while, but it will be a roller coaster ride. Similarly, from the 10th house of honor, this planet is the 10th lord in the 8th house. So, he may be honored for a while, but there may be some ups and downs. But Parasha is saying Mani, he is not giving the full picture. But the bottom line is, he can be very respected, but there will be some ups and downs relating to the honor of the person, so the respect he has in the society. Maybe like Sachin he is saying, the Sachin person, Ramaling Raju.
You are very famous on
Sarva Gunanvitaha, he is virtuous. He has all good qualities. Why is he virtuous? From the 9th house, this is the 11th lord in the 9th house. So from the 9th house is basically 11th lord, even though he is a papi, he is also the lord of fulfillment of desires, and he is in the 9th house of protection.
Wouldn't that give gains to that person because he is protecting the 11th house?
Right.
So how can we say papi?
No.
Qualities ni మనం ఎలా చూస్తాం?
See,
Respect to the 9th
his virtuousness is from the 9th house. So this planet is the 11th lord. So his goal is to give fulfillment of desires relating to virtues. So he gives all kind of virtues. The planet's agenda is to give all kinds of virtues. And he is placed not in the 12th house or some house, but he is placed in the 9th house of protecting it. So he will basically give some good virtues, etc. to the person.
But earlier we said even that 11th lord in 8th also good.
11th lord?
From 9th house.
Yeah.
11th lord.
That gives Viprita Rajoga. That gives some problem, but eventually he will give those qualities. But here,
11th lord in 9th.
he is actually quite well placed in a trine. That too, the planet is in the 9th from the 9th house. And if you forget the 9th house as Lagna, if you just take the Lagna, because that also shows the virtues of the person, the character of the person. That is the other angle. From Lagna, this is a quadrant lord in that trine, in the house of Poropunya. So he has excellent character, excellent personality, very strong personality. Sarvada Harshayuktasya, he is very cheerful. How do you see that?
He's from happy.
Yeah?
Seventh house. No, fourth house of comfort.
Okay. Which house is important for being always cheerful, positive? How do you see the attitude of the person? One, Lagna itself shows the basic personality of the person, and this planet is very well placed from it. And like you said, fourth house shows the happiness and comfort of the person, how peaceful he is. And but the thing is more than that, to be cheerful, whether he is happy inside or not is different. This is basically externally how you are appearing. So basically this is how you appear to the people. That is from which house? Your face to the other people is the seventh house. From the seventh house, he is Lagna Lord in the 11th house. That is a very good placement. So he basically has a positive face, in the sense not just physical face, but the way he comes across to people is very positive, very optimistic, pleasant. So from Lagna, he is a quadrant lord in trine, and from 7th house, he is the Lagna Lord in the 11th house. So he is basically a very cheerful, very happy person. And the emotional stability of the person is from the 5th house, not 4th house. 4th house is how happy or sad he is, but emotional stability, that aspect is seen from the 5th house. And this planet is in that house. From that house is the 3rd Lord in Lagna. 3rd house is the house of initiative. So the Lord of house of initiative is in Lagna. So he strengthens the Lagna. He is very, that gives very positive results with respect to that. So a lot of initiative is put in with respect to the emotional stability and judgment, etc. So he is basically a very mature, stable person, very optimistic person. Okay, from the children, 5th house, the 3rd Lord is in Lagna. So what does it show? The children have lot of enterprise, and they are very successful. They have lot of drive. So he is good for children also. Finally, the last verse, verse 78. Dare sheripu bhavasthe bharya tasya rujanvita. Oh, sorry. Sarvadha. All wealth. He is very wealthy. Why is he wealthy? From the 2nd house of wealth, he is the 6th Lord. Normally we say 6th house is a dusthana and all that, but for wealth we earlier said that upjayas show accumulating it. So being an upjaya Lord with respect to 2nd house, he shows accumulating wealth. And he is in a quadrant from 2nd house and he has Argala on 2nd house. So he will basically drive the wealth of the person. So he will basically accumulate a lot of wealth. So it is actually a good placement. So remember that upjaya Lords are good with respect to things that you accumulate, like wealth. Dare sheripu bhavasthe bharya tasya rujanvita striya sahatha va vairam swayam krodhi sukhodhyatah. All bad results. If the 7th Lord is in the enemy house, which is 6th house, bharya tasya rujanvita, the wife will be sick. She will be always ill. Striya sahatha va vairam, or with wives there will be quarrels, lot of enmity and quarrels. Swayam krodhi, in general he is very angry. Sukhodhyatah, he has no happiness. So he either wife is sick, or he is fighting with wife, or in general fighting with people, angry and fighting with people, and he has no happiness. Why? Well, bottom line is 7th Lord is in the house of loss from the 7th house. Lord of any house being in the house of loss from it is bad. Especially 7th and 6th are really opposite poles. 7th is getting along with people and 6th is fighting with people. So 7th Lord and 6th Lord, one Lord being in the other house is always a bad combination. So 7th Lord being in the 12th house can show 12th house is the house of hospitalization, etc. So wives may be hospitalized all the time. It can also show a very spiritual wife. 12th house is also the house of moksha. If Lagna Lord is in 12th house, such a person's intellect may be directed towards giving up on moksha, letting things go on moksha, detachment and moksha. So 7th Lord being in the 6th house can show a spiritual spouse. That is also a possibility. But another possibility is somebody who is bedridden and somebody who is always hospitalized. And 6th house is the house of house of quarrel. So seventh lord in the sixth house can show quarreling with the wife. The relations are always the lord who shows relations, that is basically in the sixth house of fighting. So his intellect relating to relations is focused on fighting. So he is always fighting with wife. And in general, seventh is not just wife, all people that you interact with. So seventh lord in the sixth house can also show fighting with people, always fighting with people.
And hence he can be.
Why is he angry? Pardon?
And hence he can be called as an angry.
Okay, anger is from the eighth house. So this planet is having Agla on the eighth house. The planet showing interactions with people and the personality, the outwardly personality of the person. Seventh house is also the personality of the person. Lagna and seventh house both show the personality of the person. Seventh house is the outgoing personality, the outwardly projection of the personality of the person. So that planet is in the sixth house, a Dusthana, and having Agla on the eighth house of anger. So he is basically a very angry person. Sukhodjitaha. He has no happiness. Why? Well, from the fourth house of happiness, the fourth lord, a quadrant lord, who gives stability, who gives the direction, is in the third house of love. So there's no direction when it comes to being happy and peaceful. So the bhavam from the fourth house is badly affected. So it is unlikely that he will be happy. Moreover, planets in the sixth house are not really conducive to happiness. They are conducive to fighting. So he is a fighter, he is angry, he is unhappy, he doesn't have any peace. Okay. So with that we will end Parashara's verses for today. We will finish the seventh house in tomorrow's class. I will restart. He may have, because then from the fourth house, the third lord is in the third house. It shows a lot of initiative related to that. So I am going to restart the recording. Okay, any thoughts you want to see? Yeah, any thoughts you want to see?
నాకు ఒక బేసిక్గా మీ MP3 అవి ఫాలో అవుతున్న దగ్గర నాకు కొన్ని క్వశ్చన్స్ వచ్చేసారు. నారాయణ దాస్ అది ఫాలో అవుతున్నాను.
ఓకే.
నారాయణ దాస్లో ఇంటర్ప్రిటేషన్ చేసేటప్పుడు నేను అసలు కరెక్ట్ పద్ధతిలో వెళ్తున్నానో లేదో నాకు అర్థం కావట్లేదు.
Okay, we can see some examples. If you have any question, we can take up the example. Do you have the data?
నాదే.
Okay.
అంటే I don't know if it is a good way to do it. I want to ask you first of all, అంటే నేను ఎలా అప్రోచ్ అవుతానంటే ముందర I take my example as the best.
That's fine. Give me the data.
May 9th, 1983.
May 9th?
1983, sir.
Yeah. May 9, 1983.
1:48 p.m.
1:48 p.m. Srikakulam. Okay. Name?
Satish.
Okay, so the data is May 9, 1983, 1:48 p.m. Indian Standard Time, 5 hours 30 minutes east of GMT. Place is Srikakulam, 83 degrees 54 minutes east, 18 degrees 18 minutes north. And the Lagna is 22 degrees 5 minutes Leo, and Moon is at 11 degrees 43 minutes Pisces. Okay, let's see. So what is, which Narayan Dasa are you using, and which Narayan Dasa do you have a doubt in? We'll see. Is it Rashi or Dashamsha or Navamsha?
I am going by the
Rashi Narayan Dasa, okay. So Satish has some questions on his Rashi Narayan Dasa. He was trying to interpret it and he is not sure. He is looking at the old MP3s from the Narayan Dasa class and he is trying to figure out if he is doing it right or if he is making mistakes. So he wants some help from the class. So we will see his chart and see how he is interpreting Narayan Dasa. We will see if it makes sense. Okay. So which Narayan Dasa are you looking at and what are you trying to see? What event are you trying to see and what are you doing? Tell us.
Interpretation, I just want to find out, there were certain things happening in my workplace.
Yeah.
kind of which were pointing towards a good chance of getting a full time or something of that sort in my workplace. So I was basically interested in what my
so he is looking at his work, his career basically right now.
yeah, right now.
Okay, so he is looking at what is happening at his workplace right now, and he is trying to use the Raj Narayan Dasha for that purpose. Okay.
First of all, I just want to see if Narayan Dasha is pointing something towards career or not of Jiva.
Yeah.
And then most probably interpreted using the D10 Narayan Dasha. I just want to see the overall picture what is happening currently.
Yeah. Sure.
So in that process, what I've observed was my Narayan Dasha has actually started from the Narayana is with Shiva.
Yeah.
Which means it started in Aquarius.
Yeah. So the Lagna, basically 7th house is stronger than Lagna. Narayan Dasha started with the 7th house. So Narayan Dasha traces the progression of the 7th house. Okay. So current Narayan Dasha is Libra.
Libra.
Right.
Which means Narayana is in Libra and
Narayana is in Libra.
Progress Lagna is in Aries.
Progress Lagna is in Aries. Absolutely right. Right. Right.
With respect to that, I was going through what can happen in this particular
Yeah.
ani చూస్తున్నాను సార్.
Okay.
Currently I just got into Aries. Libra Narayan Dasha.
He is looking at Aries under Dasha. Yeah.
Start అయింది.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Just continue stream of thought. Yes.
Aries, according to the, first of all, ఏం చేశానంటే ఎంట్రీ చార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద పీరియడ్ తీసుకున్నాను.
Yeah.
ఎంట్రీ చార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద పీరియడ్ తీసుకొని వాట్ ఈస్ కరెంట్లీ హ్యాపెనింగ్ in Aries, అంటే what are the good combinations or the bad combinations in Aries అన్నది చూస్తున్నాను.
Okay.
Presently Aries అంతర్దశ నడుస్తుంది.
Yeah.
So with respect to the period entry chart, we see that Sun is with Venus in Aries.
Yeah.
When this actually started up. And the inclinations that అంటే Sun Venus combination మీరు explain చేశారు సార్ MP3s లో. Sun when Venus is with Sun, the total of the energies of Venus would be lost. అంటే కంబస్ట్ అయిపోతాడు. And here Sun is exalted. He is the 8th lord exalted.
Right.
And he is with Venus, who is the Yogakaraka for that particular lagna.
Right.
Yeah. And Venus is the 5th, 10th lord.
5th, 10th lord for what?
With the period entry chart.
Period entry chart? Right. Okay.
So
right.
ఆయన సన్తో ఉండడం, so the 5th house and 10th house would be the power of Venus would be lost.
Right.
With respect to the
right.
that particular period entry chart.
Right.
So 8th house lord and 8th house lord Venus తో కలిసేసరికి what I thought was there will be more effect of 8th house.
Right.
Then
there will be some ups and downs in the career during this dasha, this entire dasha. This is a 8-year or some. This is a 8-year dasha, right? 2008 to 2016. During this dasha, in the period entry chart, the 8th lord is basically joining the 10th lord, right? And as a result of it, but the thing is, let's also look at it in the natal chart. So look at it in the natal chart. First let us look at the natal chart and then come to the entry chart. In the natal chart, taking Aries as Lagna, as the progress Lagna, how are things? Where is the 10th lord? He is in the 7th house. He is exalted, but he has retrogression. So he has basically Uchabhanga. So 8th lord is, 10th lord is not so well placed. And the 6th lord, if you see, for career, he is actually joining the 5th lord in Lagna. That is a good placement. The 5th lord and 6th lord are together in the Lagna. It shows Dhimanta Yoga. Right, so Mercury is actually very well placed. Mercury Sun combination is very good for the career. Like this you can see, for example, 9th house, if you take the 8th and 9th lords have a Parivartana. So from the 9th house there is a bad combination here. Like that you can basically see all the combinations, and anything that is common between the entry period chart and this chart, you can basically be confident about that. Otherwise, if you see something only in the entry period entry chart, it may not really mean much. So try to look for things that are common between the two.
Okay.
Right?
So, అంటే my అంటే it is also with respect to the lagna, I mean progress lagna చూసుకుంటే natal chart లో is also A6 ని ఇన్వాల్వ్ చేస్తుంది. A6 ని పీరియడ్ ఎంట్రీ చార్ట్ లో కూడా A6 ని ఇన్వాల్వ్ చేస్తుంది. నేటల్ చార్ట్ లో కూడా A6 ఇన్వాల్వ్ అయ్యింది. శ్రీలగ్న
A6 shows overcoming obstacles, enemies, rivalries, overcoming obstacles, etc. And yes, A6 is the dasha sign right now is in A6. So it is activating A6. You are right.
So one was that, and secondly, I try to అంటే నాకు వచ్చిన ఇంటర్ప్రిటేషన్ ఏంటంటే maybe there is some kind of
apart from antardasha, looking at the antardasha, of course we are only looking at dashas now, but if you want, before you look at antardashas, you can divide the dasha into 3 parts, right?
Based on Prushtodaya.
Yeah, based on Shishodaya, Prushtodaya. So go through those parts and try to do that. That is actually more useful than antardashas. That is more reliable even than the antardashas. So for example, Libra, even though the dasha is from the 7th house, you apply the 3 parts rule basically for the dasha, not for the lagna, progress lagna, for the dasha sign. So where is the dasha? Libra dasha, right? So Narayana is in Libra. Libra is a Shishodaya Rashi. So the first 1/3 will give the results of Libra, Narayana being in Libra, which is the third house of drive, initiative, etc. So those results will be prominent in the first 1/3 from 2008 till 2011 January. And then the Lord Venus, he is also in a Shishodaya Rashi, so he will take the middle 1/3, right? And the aspecting planet will take the last 1/3. For example, Saturn is exalted there, the result of exalted Saturn, all those things. Yokarka Mars is aspecting the Narayana, and Mars aspect, they will give results later. But right now it is the result of just third house, lot of initiative, lot of drive, lot of fight, etc. And then the result of Venus is basically the 10th lord in the 11th house, 3rd and 10th lord in the 11th house. He can actually give some gains. He can give gains in career, gains in third house matters, but all those will be from 2011 till 2030. So Venus results are not prominently being given right now. Prominent results right now are those of Libra. And if you are looking at, if you are interested in career, because Jivan Narayana Dasha shows so many things, it is a good idea to just directly go to the Dashamsa Narayana Dasha.
Okay.
So if you look at the Dashamsa Narayana Dasha, it starts from Leo, right? So right now the Dashamsa Narayana Dasha is that of Aries. So Aries Dasha is running, and Aries is the 2nd house of money. So from 2002 itself this Dasha is running, and Aries is a Prushtodaya Rashi. So last 1/3 will give the results of Aries. The money, the house of money results will be in the last 1/3. And when will Mars results will be given? Mars also is in a Prushtodaya Rashi. So Mars results will be given in the middle 1/3. Right? He also wants to give as late as possible. So the first 1/3 will give the result of occupants and aspectors. Who are aspecting this sign here?
ఇప్పుడు మనం లాస్ట్ 1/3 లోనే ఉన్నాం కదా సార్.
Oh, we are in the last 1/3, right? Okay, so forget the first 1/3. So last 1/3 just started. Until now, middle 1/3 was running, which was basically Mars, who is with Ketu and all those planets. He is with the Bharga, but he is in the 11th house of gains. But he is with Bharga also, and he is with Mars. So there are mixed results, but it's a good dasha. Mars dasha is definitely a good dasha. He is exalted in the 11th house. I mean, not Mars dasha, but Mars thoughts. But now it's the part that shows the sign itself. So 2nd house, so money. So this can give you more money, more resources available to you to do your job. Also A6 is there in the Dashamsa also. Aries has A6. Especially when A6 is in a sign owned by Mars, it is likely to give its result strongly. So there will be a lot of fights, quarrels, or some tensions in the workplace, which will basically, you will have to fight for things in the workplace. So all those things also will happen in the next couple of years. So those are basically the possibilities.
And it will be tangible service also.
Yes, yes. A6 is service.
Permanent service.
Yes. A6 is basically permanent, it can be permanent service. This is actually not so conducive to doing business, for example. being AC, you can give a permanent position also.
ఇదేం చేశానంటే ఇక్కడ ఐ డోంట్ నో ఇఫ్ ఐ షుడ్ బి డూయింగ్ దిస్ ఆర్ నాట్ ఐ హావ్ యాక్చువల్లీ సీన్ ద పీరియడ్ ఎంట్రీ చార్ట్ ఫర్ దిస్ పర్టికులర్
Yeah, how exactly that should be interpreted, I'm not 100% sure. There's no teachings from the tradition, so you are on your own basically.
అవునా సార్. అండ్ బేసికలీ when I opened this particular period entry chart for Aries of D10 and currently దశ నడుస్తుంది, స్టార్ట్ అయింది తారక దశ.
It has all these planets.
అకార్డింగ్ టు ది ఇది 11th house.
You experiment if there are any, because this is not progression of Lagna, this is progression of the 10th Lord. So this is a totally different thing. And period entry chart may still be relevant, but how do you judge it? What do you see in it is not very clear. So, I mean, in other words, tradition doesn't basically teach how to use Narayan Dasa's period entry chart. So you can experiment. I haven't really experimented that much. Or I have, but I forgot, so I can't tell you.
అంటే the only thing that I went there was with respect to the ascendant there, it's a Vadakasthana. 7th house is the Vadakasthana. You have a lot of planets in the Vadakasthana. You have A8 in the Vadakasthana. So అవన్నీ ఆ ఇంటర్ప్రిటేషన్స్ అన్ని వచ్చాయి అన్నమాట. ఒకసారి అలా చేస్తారా చేయరా, what would that mean అన్నది కనుక్కున్నాను.
I'm not sure how you use the period entry chart in the Shamsa Narayan Dasa.
And with respect to Vimsotri also, one ఈ నారాయణ దాస్ చూస్తున్నప్పుడు you also mentioned that not only things that are going currently ఏం జరుగుతున్నదో కాకుండా what is mind thinking అన్నది కూడా చూడమన్నారు మీరు.
Right.
So with respect to Vimsotri, with respect to moon,
Vimsotri is how the mind is viewing things. So you started Kedasa recently, last year, 1.5 years back. So Kedasa is running right now, and the Antardasha is that of Sun. So Ketu Sun is running. So how is this Antardasha? In general, how is Ketu Dasha, Ketu Mahadasha? He is the 9th Lord in the 11th house. He is with the 7th Lord, he is with the 2nd Lord, and also the other 9th Lord. So it's basically fine. The only problem is there is Badhaka there. Badhaka Isha is there, and Ketu in general, when he joins Badhaka Lord, he gives more trouble. So there is some inexplicable problem given by Ketu with the Badhaka Lord. That's it. Otherwise, he is quite well placed. He is with an exalted planet. He is in 11th house. He is a functional benefic for this Lagna. So he is quite fine. So Kedasha, even in the Rashi chart, he is 4th Lord in the 5th house with Parivartana. 4th and 5th Lord have a Parivartana, Jupiter and Ketu. Can actually give a lot of learning. 4th Lord shows learning, and in the 5th house he shows knowledge. He is exalted, and this is Jupiter Ketu Parivartana. So a lot of Vedic learning, so astrology, this kind of subjects, even other Vedic subjects, if you learn, this is actually a good time to learn Vedic knowledge. So it is Ketu Mahadasha. And the peak can be Ketu Jupiter Antardasha. That can be a really good Antardasha, very productive Antardasha. But bottom line is, all those things are possible in the Rashi. But even in the Rashi, he is basically fine. And in the Dashamsa, he is quite fine. So this is overall a Dasha of good financial profits, doing okay financially. Not financially, I mean professionally. In terms of profession, money-wise things are fine basically. There will be gains in profession. But the specific Antardasha that started right now, even the previous Antardasha was that of Venus. He is the 8th Lord, but he is in the 6th house. Normally we say that there are two angles. One is Vikrita Rajayoga, the other is Manakarkasthana. Both are applicable. If any 8th Lord is in the 6th house, he gives Vikrita Rajayoga. But unfortunately, this Venus, he is in Manakarkasthana there. He is not at all comfortable in that house. Moreover, he is in the 2nd house from Arul Lagna, of image. Basically, he nourishes the image. And a functional male seat, that too a planet in Manakarkasthana being in the house of nourishment from AL is not really that great for the image. So this is a so-so. Because the Mahadasha is good, he can't really pull you down drastically, but this Antardasha is not so great. Moreover, from Dasha Lord Ketu, taking him as Lagna, he is in the 8th house. Of course, he is a Yokarka, but still he is in the 8th house. So it is a mixed Antardasha. It's not a great Antardasha. It's okay. It's not great. The first Antardasha of Ketu is fine, but the second Antardasha of Venus is somewhat mixed. Now Sun Antardasha is coming. How is this? Yeah. Then
with respect to Ketu, he is in 12th house.
with respect to Ketu, Oh, you are talking about the sun. Okay, I thought you were talking about Venus because then Bhoga is in Lagna itself. Okay. With sun, the Bhoga is in 9th house.
With respect to Venus kuda sir, iday apply cheste,
Yeah.
what my interpretation was, it is the Bhoga actually falls in A9. I
Yeah,
got
yeah,
break
yeah.
when Ketu
Not only A9, it is Lagna. Lagna always shows new beginnings, breaks, etc. So Lagna can give a new beginning or break. So Khati Lagna is there, A9 is there. So that is true. The Bhoga is quite well placed. And also from the Dasha Lord, he is a Yokarka. But still he is in the 8th house. So he gives some tension. It is not a smooth Antardasha. Whereas the next one, Sun, that is also not really great because if you look at the Bhoga, it's in the 9th house. So you will experience some fortune. Just like you experienced a break in the previous Antardasha, you will experience some fortune in this Antardasha. But not only that, he is Viprit Rajoga Kivar. 8th Lord from the Dasha Lord, he is the 8th Lord in the 12th house. He is giving Viprit Rajoga. But from Dasha Lord, he is in Manakar Sthana. But taking from Lagna, how is he? He is the 6th Lord in 10th house. He shows a lot of work. That is good. Arthatrikona Lord in another Arthatrikona is good. He shows being busy with work. So overall, looking at everything, again this is a neutral Antardasha, but this Dasha will keep you busy. It will keep you busy with work and you will be working hard. Even from the Dasha Lord, he is the 8th Lord. So he is 6th Lord or 8th Lord. So either way he shows being busy and working very hard. So this Antardasha is fine. But the next Antardasha is of interest. Because, for me, yeah, this is a short Antardasha. The next Antardasha of Moon, how is that? He is
once again indicating
from,
Bhoga
it's in Lagna. It can give a new beginning or it can give a good break, etc. But Bhoga in any sign from Lagna is always good. So there is no problem. He is the 5th Lord in the 12th house. 5th Lord in the 12th house is actually not bad. 5th Lord.
ఇక్కడ రాహుకి చంద్రుడికి పరివర్తన ఉంది సార్.
Okay.
దాన్ని ఎలా అది దట్స్ మై నెక్స్ట్ క్వశ్చన్ ఎక్స్టెండెడ్ క్వశ్చన్ యాక్చువల్లీ కొన్నిసార్లు మనం కన్సిడర్ చేస్తున్నాం పరివర్తనని.
Yeah, but the thing is Rahu and Moon are unlikely to exchange their results and act like each other, even though they are in each other's house. So it's very likely that Moon will just act like Moon, the 5th Lord in the 12th house. It's very likely that. So the bottom line is he is the Lord of recognition. 5th Lord shows recognition. He is in the 12th house. 12th house shows some compromise, but in general 5th Lord, irrespective of where he is, he should be fine. And taking from the Dasha Lord as Lagna, he is the 7th Lord in 2nd house. So he is a quadrant Lord. He is in the 2nd house of money. So this should be a decent Antardasha. But again, look, combining all the factors, it's mixed, but it's better than the previous two. So in my judgment, compared to Venus, Sun is better. Compared to Sun, Moon is better. But Mars Antardasha should be good because Mars is the other 9th Lord. So 9th Lord Dasha, 9th Lord Antardasha, and he is exalted in the 11th house of gains.
ఇక్కడ wouldn't Mars give a different result?
Why?
అంటే మూడు ప్లానెట్స్ ఉన్నాయి కదా.
Right.
In terms of Buddha is ఫస్ట్ బుధుడు వస్తాడు, తర్వాత కుజ and then
Ketu. Right. So Mars will act as Mars. Ketu may exchange with Mercury, but Mars is Mars. So basically, from the Dasha Lord, he is the 11th Lord in Lagna. From the Dasha Lord, from Paka Lagna, he is the 11th, from the Dasha Paka, he is the 11th Lord in Lagna, exalted. Right? He is the 11th Lord exalted in Lagna. And he is the 4th and 11th Lord. So he is quite well placed. Exalted in Lagna is very good. Even from Lagna, he is the 9th Lord exalted in 11th. He is very well placed. So both the ways, Mars is extremely good. So Mars Antardasha should be the really good Antardasha. Until then, things will go slowly. But once the Mars Antardasha comes, things should be better. Did you see? I don't remember. But this the next year basically seems better compared to this year. And of course you can look at Tithi Pravesh, etc. Then you can be more sure.
This year Shani is in 12th house from Lagna.
Mm-hmm.
Tithi Pravesh.
Mm-hmm.
Here బుద్ధుడు ఎవరో ఒకసారి మహాత్ముడు or అలా
Now, we were saying earlier that Venus gave a break, right? Now let us see the other things, apart from which lord he is, which house he is in. Let us see some more factors. For example, I taught you the Patikal Sambandhas. If you click on Venus in Dashamsha, and if you look at the relationships, if you look at the Patikadi relationships of this planet, you will see the Patikadi relationships of Venus, right? So, which planets, with respect to which planets Venus is, which planets Venus is conducive to, you can see. So, if you see Venus, he is in Patikasthana from Moon, right? Moon is important for getting a break here, because fifth house is the house of recognizing your abilities and giving you a break. Lagna and fifth house are always important for getting a break, right? So, apart from Bhoga falling in the fifth house, and Venus aspecting the fifth lord, the other fact is he is in Karakasthana from Moon. So being in the Karakasthana, not Karaka, Patikasthana. Patikasthana, what does Patikasthana mean? I told you guys earlier. Patika, Bodhaka, Karaka, Vedaka. What is the meaning of each of these? Patikasthana is ripening, basically. Ripening or cooking. That is what Patika means. So he basically ripens the results of the other planet. Bodhasthana means he basically guides, he explains the results. He explains and gives some clarity relating to the results of the other planet. If a planet is in Karakasthana from a planet, he gets it done. Karaka is doer basically, he executive. Bodhaka is explanatory, Karaka is executive, Patika means ripening. Basically ripening means if the results are already there but not fully there basically, he accelerates them and makes them ready. The results are ready basically. And Vyadhaka means putting brakes, obstacles, causing obstacles. Vyadhaka. So these are the four houses. So you can see, so which house, is he in a Patika or Bodhaka or Karaka or Vyadhaka from any planet? If so, which lord, from which lord, that is important, or which Karaka. Now, Moon, he is the fifth lord, so he is in Patikasthana from him. So he ripens the results of the fifth house of recognition. And Karaka, he is in Karakasthana from Sun. Sun is the sixth lord in the 10th house. Sixth house is service, sixth lord in the 10th house. 10th house is basic career. And of course, Sun is a Karaka for career. So being in the Karakasthana from him, he gets things done. He gives you a service, he gives you a career, and he basically ripens the results of the fifth house. So those acted, in addition to the factors that we have seen earlier, those factors made Venus give you all these things. And similarly, if you want to see, currently Sun started, right? So if you want to see the Patika relationships of Sun to expect what may be in store, do the same thing again. Look at the Patikadi relationships of Sun. How is Sun? He is? See, he is Naisargika Vyadhaka for a bunch of key planets here. Moon, Jupiter and Venus. Especially Moon and Jupiter are important. They are the Lagna Lord and fifth Lord. Lagna Lord, the basic being of your career, and fifth Lord, recognition in your career. He is in Vyadhaka. He is a Naisargika Vyadhaka. In general, inherently he is a Vyadhaka to those planets. So he may give some problems relating to those. But let's see the, more importantly, let's see the Sthana. He is in Karakasthana from Moon though. So even though he is Naisargika Vyadhaka for Moon, right now he is in Karakasthana from Moon. He wants to get things done for Moon. So inherently there is some tension between Moon and Sun, but here he is in a good house from Moon. So they kind of cancel out each other. It's not really that strong. But he is in Vyadhakasthana from Mars. So that is the thing that stands out. He is in Vyadhakasthana from Mars. By the way, he is in Vyadhakasthana from Jupiter also. I mean, he is Naisargika Vyadhaka for Jupiter also. Who is in the 9th house? So he is a Naisargika Vyadhaka for a planet who happens to be in the 9th house, and he is in Vyadhakasthana in this chart from the 9th lord. So 9th house, he is showing some problems. Some Vyadha to another 9th house. So he may cause some obstacles to 9th house. He may teach some lessons relating to the 9th house. Vyadha is not just obstacles, but teaching some lessons relating to the 9th house by creating some situations. What does 9th house show? Protection, boss, guidance. So So with respect to something may happen to your boss or some guidance that you get, you may not get good guidance from the boss, your boss may be misleading you. Such things are possible in the Sanantardasha. So like this you can see the Patikadi relationship. Those are actually very useful when you judge the Vishwasari Dasha. Any other points you want to point out? Any other questions actually?
I was at a last time adiginappudu.
Yeah. Actually, if you speak in English, it will be better because not all the audience of the MP3 will understand Telugu.
Okay.
Even though I completely understand.
Absolutely, sir. I understood it.
Yeah.
Venus being in the Marana Karaka Sthana,
Yeah.
it's being said that it would deprive the results of the third house and the eighth house.
Yeah, right. That is true.
I didn't completely understand how I should interpret it in any chart. So, what does third house is of initiative.
Right.
Third house is also of enthusiasm. So
Right.
with respect to the eighth house, eighth house is actually
Right. The eighth house has two aspects. It is basically the longevity, also end of longevity. Eighth house has two aspects. So if the eighth lord is in Manakaraka Sthana, it can actually show end of longevity. It can be a bad thing. It's not like problems are taken away from the person. Well, problems are taken away, tensions are taken away because the whole thing is taken away. You don't have any tensions if you are dead. So from that point of view, eighth lord in Manakaraka Sthana can give death as well as he can give no death but all the tensions taken away by some other means. So both possibilities are there.
Do you have any short break or anything? Job?
Why?
Actually,
Because he is a third lord. Third lord can give that, but third lord is in Manakaraka Sthana here, so he may not give any break. Any other questions? But Jupiter Antardasha should be very good. Mars Antardasha is very good, Rahu is okay, but Jupiter Antardasha should be very good. Ketu, Jupiter, and because in the Rashi chart, Ketu and Jupiter have a nice parivartana in the Rashi chart. And in the Dashansha chart, Jupiter is basically the Lagna Lord in the 9th house. He is in 11. So basically the Dasha Lord is in the 11th house and the Antardasha Lord is in 11. So 11th will be fully activated then. So Jupiter, Mars Antardasha is also very good. Mars Antardasha and Jupiter Antardasha, both of them should be very good. And look at the Tithi Pravesh also and see during that time if any interesting dashas come, then you can say this period will be good, there will be some gains like that. Any other questions, any other points you want to make, or any other chart, any other doubt you have?
When do we use Kala Chakra? That software we have?
The Kala Chakra, yeah.
So how do we read that?
Okay. One use of Kala Chakra is in the Tithi Pravesh chart. When you make a Tithi Pravesh chart for any year, you see where the planet is. For example, in this chart, if you take the Kala Chakra of 2009, let us say, or 2008, the current year, just click on the Tithi Pravesh chart, 2008 Tithi Pravesh chart, make it, and then click on Kala Chakra. Yeah, then click on Kala Chakra. Right? Do you see for this data, when you make 2008-2009 Kala Chakra, Jupiter is in Uttarashada, which is in Yama spoke, right? Right? And Venus is in Ashwini and Moon in Uttarabhadra, they both are in Varuna spoke. Like that you can see which spoke different planets belong to. So there is an axle in the middle which has 4 nakshatras, and then there are 8 spokes. One is Indra, one is Agni, Yama, Niriti, Varuna, Vayu, Kubera, Ishana. Right? And the planets in Ishana spoke, they bring the blessings of gods. And the planets in Niriti spoke, they bring the curses of gods and other beings. They bring the curses. And the planets in Kubera spoke bring money. The planets in Indra spoke want to bring power. The planets in Agni spoke, they want to bring prosperity and well-being. And the planets in Yama spoke, they want to bring death and other kinds of such unexpected troubles. And the planets in Varuna spoke, they try to bring either suffering or lot of effort, lot of hard work. And also foreign things relating to foreign lands. And the planets in Vayu spoke bring lot of dispersion of the energy, wandering, etc. So like this you can see which spoke a planet belongs to in the Kala Chakra, and then you can try to see from it. Pardon me?
So Jupiter near Uttarachara means it is close to in the Nakshatra, the transit of
You are saying at the end of the spoke as well as the beginning of the spoke difference? Yeah. A planet at the end of the spoke will give the result even more prominently. Whereas if the planet is in the first one, close to the axle, see, close to the axle there is Nakshatra 1, Nakshatra 2 in the middle, Nakshatra 3 away from the axle. Okay? So Nakshatra 3 gives the results more prominently. Nakshatra 2 less prominently, Nakshatra 1 even less prominently of the spoke. Planets in Nakshatra 1 are almost on the axle. They are kind of on the axle as well as on the spoke. Whereas planet at the end of the spoke is fully on the spoke. It is less on the axle. The impact of the axle is less. But the axle is important from the point of view of it is what basically keeps things going. So there are all these different influences pulling in different directions, and the axle keeps everything together. So planets in axle are very important. They are the foundation basically. So what you do now is you look at which planets are in the axle, which planets are in bad spoke, which planets are in good spoke, etc. Right? And you see, you don't give predictions just based on this. You don't say, okay, Jupiter is in Yama's spoke, so Jupiter Dasha, you will die. You won't give predictions like that. You see if there is any correlation with the houses, the basic astrology. You use it as another factor. So suppose somebody has somebody's annual chart. In somebody's annual chart, let us say there is annual ctMRSGX chart. There is a planet in Yama's spoke, and let's say the same planet is in Vrishabhaga, or the same planet is a Maraka, or aspecting the Maraka. Then you can say there is some chance of some death or something. Let's take an example. Let's take Indira Gandhi's chart.
Once again, reiterate that far away from the axle is the prominent.
More gives the result of that axle even more.
I understood other way actually. Close to the axle is close to the nucleus.
No. So axle is basically the full support, basic support, right?
Okay.
And each spoke has a direction. So the further away you are, the centripetal force is higher.
Okay.
When you are close to the axle, it's almost as though you are on the axle, rather than being on the spoke.
Stable,
It's more stable. At the end, the force in a particular direction is higher at the end. Okay. Okay. Let us take Indira Gandhi. Do you guys have Indira Gandhi's chart? I don't know if this is accurate or rectified, original, but I'll just give you the data that I have in my computer. For this purpose, it doesn't have to be accurate. 1917, November 19, 11:07 p.m.
How did you get back to the nation?
Just click on N icon there, or go to modes and click on, in the modes there will be a reset to natal mode. Yeah. Okay. You don't have to even do that. Just open a new chart. Then it will be natal chart. So open a new chart and enter this data unless you have Indira Gandhi's chart already. 1917, November 19, 11:07 p.m. Indian Standard Time. And I don't seem to have the place. So I just put a Delhi or something. I think I put Delhi here. But I don't think she was born in Delhi anyway. Actually, I have some longitude and latitude entered here, but I'm not sure how accurate those are. So I'll just take it easy. Let's say Delhi, approximately. So now, if you look at the Tithi chart, when did she die? Do you guys remember? 84 October, right? 84 October, is that right? I believe so. October 30, let me look at, actually I have her, Indira Gandhi's assassination, I have that, October 31, around noon time. So that is when she was assassinated, okay. Now let's go back.
So 1984 that is.
For me? Yeah, make a 1984 Tithi chart. Okay, 1984 or 83, let's figure out. So if I may, October 29 actually the Tithi Pravesh occurred of that year.
83.
Yeah. Actually, one second, no, wrong. When was the Tithi Pravesh of that year? 83, yeah.
83 October was Rahu.
Okay, so make 1983 Tithi Pravesh chart. So it is December 10, 1983, 3 a.m., right? So if you make the Tithi Pravesh chart, go to the Kalika. Are there any planets in Yama spoke?
It's only Mars, moon, okay.
Yeah, he is actually not really on the edge basically. Okay, so there is one planet in Yama's spoke. Does it have any prominent role with respect to giving death? If so, basically you can say there can be death. Does the planet have any prominent role in giving death? Okay. Is that right? Just think a little more. How do you see death? From Rashi alone, or are there any other charts for seeing death? How do you see death? Just tell me. How do you see death, guys? Rudramsha? Especially a violent death like that and assassination, can you see Rudramsha? How is moon in Rudramsha? How is moon in Rudramsha? He is? Yeah. He is the 8th Lord in Rudramsha. So, the 8th Lord in Rudramsha, so he is basically, he can show that. And he is in Yama spoke. So that is of concern. Similarly, if the 8th Lord of Rashi chart or a marka in the Rashi chart. Who are markas in the Rashi chart? Tell me. Mars is the 2nd and 7th Lord. Mars would have been of interest. Jupiter is the 3rd Lord in the 2nd house. Jupiter would have been of interest. Rahu, a malefic, is in the 8th house. So Jupiter, Mars and Rahu, those are the markas in the Rashi chart. If any of them are in Yama spoke, that would have been of interest. But that is not the case. But at least the Rudramsha 8th Lord is in the Yama spoke. So there is a possibility of death. So as you can see, this is not a earth-shattering kind of thing. You can't just make the Kalchakra and say, okay, that's it. But the thing is, this is used for confirmation. You see the markas in the Rashi, in the Rudramsha, or if somebody is suffering from disease in the Satthamsha, and then see if one of the planets is in Yama's Amsha. Similarly, if somebody got lot of wealth, you can see if a planet is showing lot of wealth in the Rashi, Hora, the Samsa, etc., you can see if that planet, one of the planets involved in that combination is in Kubera Samsa. You see what I mean? That way you can see.
So concept wise, so these planets are placed in that spoke. I mean, how do you draw this Kalchakra?
How do you draw it? Oh, you want to see? Just let the software draw it for you. Normally, how you draw it is okay. Let's see. You basically you place the nakshatra of moon. Normally, you take that as a reference, right? But you can, in the Tithi Pravesh chart, the software automatically takes Lagna as a reference. You basically, if you go to the Kalchakra, you can actually change. You can say use Sun's Nakshatra, use Moon's Nakshatra, use Lagna's Nakshatra, etc. But what I recommend is in the Stipravesh chart, when you cast the annual Stipravesh chart, take the Nakshatra occupied by the Lagna as a reference. And with respect to that, there is a particular pattern. The Lagna, the Nakshatra occupied by Lagna is in the eastern corner. And then you can see the pattern from there. The eastern edge is the Nakshatra occupied by Lagna. Then you basically 1, 2, 3 and 4th one is in the middle. 5, 6, 7 are in the Agni's direction. And then 8, 9, 10 are in the Yama's direction, like that basically. So starting from Indra's direction, go towards the axle. And then 1 in the axle. And then 3 going away in the Agni's direction. And then starting at the tip of the Yama's axle, coming in 3 more. And so on. So this is how you draw this chart.
That's how you place the nakshatras.
Right, right.
And this planet's placement is based on Rashi chart or?
Planet placement is based on?
Rashi chart? I mean, Tithi Rashi chart.
Yes. Rashi chart, exactly.
Because Saturn, Venus, is
Yeah.
the east.
Okay, I just want to give you another example. That's what I was looking for. So bear with me. Okay. Now, I gave a gloomy example, so I want to give a positive example. Same Indira Gandhi chart. Take the 1979 annual City Pravesh chart. 1979 annual City Pravesh chart. Okay? She got back into power in 80 January, right? 80 January she got back into power. Now, are there any indications of coming back to power or getting some power in this chart? Using the Kalachakra, which are the planets who are in Indra's spoke here? Mars and Rahu are in Kalachakra, Indra's spoke in the Kalachakra. And look at the Rashi and D10. In the Rashi, Mars is the 5th lord of power, right? Also he is the Arulagna lord. And if you look at the Dashamsha, he is the 6th lord in the 5th house. He is the Ghatika Lagna lord, based on what the data I have, but it may or may not be accurate. But bottom line is, he is in the 5th house of power. He is in the 5th house of power, and from Arulagna he is in the 3rd house, a malefic in the 3rd house. So he is in the house of power. In Dashamsha, he owns the house of power in the Rashi. And he is associated with the Indra spoke in the Kalchakra. So he can give political power. You understand? Of course, it doesn't have to be Mars Dasha. You can see who's the 5th lord. See, for example, which Dasha actually happened. I think it happened in Venus Dasha, right? So it happened in Venus Dasha. I don't know the Antar Dasha, probably Jupiter, but it happened in Venus Dasha. That could be simply because Venus is the 5th lord in the Rashi chart. And he is in the 5th house from Arul Lagna, right? Do you see that?
1974 is 1979.
9. Are you guys confused still?
1979 Rajesh.
Yeah.
I am getting the Lagna as Cancer.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting Gemini. You guys, I'm using the modified Lahiri, Vishnavi, that thing basically. I'm not using the Lahiri. So it can be off by a sign. It can be off by a few minutes. But you should get the same Kalchakra also. You should get the same Kalchakra. Right. You should, that should be the same. Okay.
And here Sun and Mercury are in Yama's, so we see the Rudramsa and Rasi here and see if Sun and Mercury are.
Yeah, you can see. Yeah, you can see.
Sun is the 5th lord in 9th house. In Rasi?
But why are you looking at it? For what purpose?
Just
Okay, okay.
given an example, I just want to.
Okay, see it.
In this case.
Yeah, okay, let's see. So Kalachakra, Sun and Mercury are in the Yama Samsa. Now, if you look at the Rudramsa, Sun and Mercury, so they can be, Rudra can, Yama slowly is with, okay, Sun is, if you look at the Rudramsa, in the Rudramsa, Sun is basically the fourth lord, Mercury is the fifth lord in the fourth house, nothing really. But let us see actually now that you brought it up, I don't know why you brought it up, but because you brought it up, let us look at this thing. Sun and Mercury you said, right? Okay. Let us look at the Saptamsa. Sanjay Gandhi died in that year. Sanjay Gandhi did die in that year.
What's your Lagna in Saptamsa?
Saptamsa is Pisces. What do you get? You should get the same thing.
We are getting Aquarius.
You are getting Aquarius. Okay. Take Pisces. So taking Pisces, the second child is seen from the 7th house. Right? So 7th house is basically from the 7th house, the 7th lord basically you have to take. So basically he is in Aries, right? So in the Saptamsa, Pisces is rising, the 7th house is Virgo, the lord is Mercury, he is in Aries. So take Aries as Lagna to see events relating to the second sun during the year, right? So if you do that, from Aries as Lagna, Mercury and Ketu, look at Mercury, Ketu and Sun. Is anybody a Maraka? Well, Mercury is not really a Maraka, but he is with Ketu. 8th Lord in Lagna, Ketu that too. Ketu shows violent death. So 8th Lord Ketu is in Lagna with Mercury, with 6th Lord Mercury, accident. So 6th and 8th Lord Mercury and Ketu are in Lagna. That can show an accident. And how is Sun? How is Sun?
6th Lord in 3rd house.
Pardon me? Yeah, he is 5th Lord, but he is in the 3rd house of possible death. So Sun and Mercury are actually involved with death. Mercury is with the 8th Lord and Sun is in the 3rd house. You understand what I am saying? Mercury is with the 8th Lord in the Lagna and also he is the 6th Lord of accident and Sun is in the 3rd house. So both those planets are in Yama's spoke in the Kalachakra, showing some tragedy. So planets in Yama's spoke not only kill the person, they may kill father, mother, brother, anybody basically. They bring Yama basically to the person's life. So the fact that Sun and Mercury are in Kalachakra, and if you look at Saptamsa, they are showing possible death of the child. They basically corroborate each other. Even without Kalachakra, if you look at this Saptamsa, you could say in Samdasya or even Mercury Dasya or Ketu Dasya, actually when did he die? June 30 or something like that. June, somewhere in June. From May 12 till July 11 is Mercury Dasya. So yeah, he died in Mercury Dasya. He died in Mercury Dasya. I don't know the Antar Dasya.
So some setbacks.
Pardon me? Yeah. So it's not Sun but it's Mercury. So basically 6th Lord and 8th Lord being in Lagna for the second child Lagna in the Saptamsa can show second child basically dying in an accident, having a violent death in an accident because of Ketu. So that basically happened in the Mercury Dasha as per the Tithi Ashtotri Dasha. Okay. So this is how you can look at the Kalachakra. But the thing is, it's not really a clincher. It's not really like you can make predictions using it. We are really making predictions using Saptamsa, using the Aries as Lagna, looking at the combination series. That is how we are making. We are using the Kalachakra just to reinforce. We see that those planets are also in the Yama's spoke. So it increases the chance. Even if they weren't in Yama Samsa, still the event could have been given. And if they were in Yama Samsa, but if Saptamsa did not show anything, Sun wouldn't have died. This is the real thing. But that is an interesting factor. And sometimes, several times when you look at the Kalachakra, you see interesting coincidences. But it's just knowledge passed in the tradition, so we are just passing it. But it's not reliable knowledge. But Siddhi Pravesh, the basic chart analysis, Saptamsa, Direkkana, Dashamsa, that is far more reliable. But there is something more, probably in the use of Kalachakra, there is something more that we are missing. But what I have learned and what I found to be reasonably useful is, let's look at which planets are in which spoke. And let's take another example actually. See, I said planet in Indra's Dashamsa give power, right? A planet who was the 5th lord in Rashi, occupying the 5th house in Dashamsa, was in Indra's spoke and she came back to power that year. Let's take the year because a planet in Indra's Dashamsa can also take away power. I said Indra spoke is important for power, but it may also show losing power. Let's see if there is any bad planet in Indra's Satyamsa in the 76 chart. So let's take 1976 Tripravesh chart.
So negative impact also possible if the planet.
Yes, possible. A planet who brings Indra's energy to the person's mind, to the person's life, he may actually misdirect that energy to a wrong direction if he is not conducive to power. Let's take this 1976 chart, okay? 1976-77 City Pravesh chart. In this chart, are there any planets in Indra's Satyamsa?
Venus, sir.
So in this year's chart,
Venus, sir. That too is end of the spoke.
Venus is at the end of the spoke, so he gives prominently a result relating to power. Is he conducive to power? Look at the Rashi chart first. How is he in the Rashi chart? He is the sixth lord in Lagna.
Lord of Ghati Lagna also.
In the Rashi chart?
In the Rashi chart. I mean, it shows.
Not in the chart I have. So forget it. Not in my calculations here. My Anamsa calculation. No, I get Cancer actually. I get Cancer. Because, you know what? Sunrise definition, I think. Yeah, I take a different sunrise definition compared to you guys, probably. I take the center of the sun. So that is one factor that changes Ghati Lagna, and I use a different Anamsa. So those two factors, they are putting the Ghati Lagna in Cancer for me. So, and you took 1976, right?
Right.
Okay. So in the Rashi chart, Venus is the sixth lord of obstacles. He is in Lagna. Lagna lord and sixth lord have a parivartana. So and in the Dashamsa, how is he in the Dashamsa?
He is Lagna Lord in second. But sixth and Lagna Lord and sixth Lord.
We have a big difference. We have a really big difference. Okay. Actually, what I have is Leo Lagna.
Leo?
Yeah, Leo Lagna.
We got Taurus, right?
I see. I got Leo Lagna, but the thing is, it is 14 seconds earlier, it is Cancer. It could be Cancer or Leo. So let's take it easy. It could be either option. But the bottom line is just looking at the Rashi. He is basically the sixth lord in Lagna. He is not really showing power. And if such a planet is in the Indra spoke, he can basically show taking away the power from the person. Actually another interesting thing. If you look at my feeling is that the time that I have right here is not accurate. It's basically a few seconds earlier. So basically it's Cancer Lagna, in which case Venus would be in the 12th house in Dashamsa. Not only that, she actually lost power in Moon Dasha. In the Moon Tithi Astotri Dasha, she lost power. And if you look at the Rashi chart, Moon is the 8th lord. Moon is the 8th lord in the 2nd house. And of course, the 10th lord, everybody is in the 12th house of loss in the Rashi chart. But in the Dashamsa, the Lagna lord Moon would be in the 6th house, along with the 8th lord. So Lagna, taking Cancer as Lagna. I am getting Leo right now, but just a few seconds earlier it is Cancer. So my belief is that is right. So then, the Lagna lord Moon is in the 6th house with the 8th lord Rahu. That is actually eclipse of Moon, eclipse of Lagna lord. The two in the 6th house. Not really, he is not in the 5th house or 9th house or something. So this is not really showing, and also that will be the 8th house from the Aruh Lagna. So he will be in the 8th house from the Aruh Lagna. So in that Dasha, she basically lost power. Basically her life went full circle basically. She was a powerful leader, a tyrant until then, and after that she was totally out of power, able to do nothing. She controlled everything until then, and then she was able to control nothing. And if you look at the Kalachakra, Moon is in the axil. Moon and Saturn are the two planets in the axil of the Kalachakra. Planets in the axil show the base, I told you, right? And Saturn is looking at the Rashi chart, Saturn is in the 8th house and Moon is the 8th lord. So the only two planets in the axil of the Kalachakra are associated with 8th house. So it shows the axil has some holes in it. So this is a rough ride. So like that. Similarly, if you see in the axil, planets giving a nice Raj Yoga, 10th lord, 9th lord, 11th lord, like that. Planets is involved in nice combinations in the Rashi or Dashamsa or Navamsa. You can say this is a good year. So like that basically axial is the basic foundation and the other spokes are energies in different directions. So that is how you use the Kalachakra. Okay, but use it sparingly, use it with caution. So with that I will end the class today. We'll meet next week and we'll continue the 7th house. And if you have any charts, basically write down the data and exactly what you want to discuss. Just refresh yourself on exactly what you want to discuss so that we can discuss that in the next class.